适合手机观看的竖屏短剧近几年在中国日渐流行，且在短视频平台上创造了巨大收益，更促进很多中国导演前来美国拍摄短剧，为美国当地电影人带来了很多工作机会。日前，首届竖屏短剧电影节在洛杉矶举办，诸多年轻电影人带作品参展，多位电影人和学者也出席畅谈了他们对竖屏短剧未来的看法。
但是在潮流的这一个推动之下，我们希望有一个更正确的指引，包括什么是观众最爱看的，然后以及什么是正向的指导等等。第二个原因呢，是因为我们这个竖屏电影节在我们好莱坞的这个业内，其实业务下滑的前提下，然后我们其实是一股新鲜的血液和新鲜的力量，能够给大家提供更多的工作机会，给更多的年轻血液一个展示的舞台。
I'm George Wong. I'm a professor of screenwriting at the UCLA School of Film and Television. 我叫黄家直. The vertical format is something that's been really catching fire. Everyone's been talking about it. And so it's something that we want to sort of offer to our students because quite honestly, it seems to be the only place where, anyone's making anything these days. It's getting harder and harder to make movies and traditional TV shows, but everywhere you look, it seems like there's a lot of vertical production going on, and we would love to sort of introduce our students to that world and give them the opportunity to go and create stuff and tell stories.
Did you see this actually blooming in China right now? And then there's
yes, that's how exactly. Yeah, no, I think they said that it's like 900 million viewers in China. That's half of the Chinese population. And you can sort of see why. I mean, we all have this now,
Yeah.
It's hilarious. It's like, I'll ask a lot of my students when they first come into the film school, like, well, how do you typically watch movies? Do you have, how big's your TV? And they don't have TVs. They watch stuff on this. We all watch stuff on our phones now. And so it's exciting to see what this format, can do, what it can do for storytelling, how it can change storytelling, how storytelling can evolve in this new vertical format. So I'm excited to see, what they have to show tonight.
My name is George Shanshu. I'm the director and co-founder of the Asian World Film Festival, which takes place actually in this theater for the past 12 years. For me, this is going to be a discovery. I have never watched a vertical, but I have so many of my colleagues and partners that have been doing this and successfully. And when they invited me to come, I said yes because I'm a very curious person. I come from the old school of filmmaking. I've been making movies for 60 years. And so for me, it's going to be a discovery, okay? And I love maiden voyages. So the first festival is always exciting to see how it goes. And I wish Mimi good luck, and I wish Eileen.
中国驻洛杉矶总领馆的文化领事柴云，大家知道这个短剧呢是起源于中国吧？现在这个短剧在中国应该说是蓬勃发展。这个据估计啊，去年的市值已经超过了是9亿美元啊，是9亿还是90亿？90亿美元吧？应该说是市场非常的巨大。而且现在呢，短剧这种形式呢，逐渐的推广到全球，在美国呢也赢得了很多观众的喜欢。现在呢，美国的这个大的 studio 呢也逐渐的认可。所以说我觉得这个短剧呢，是一个非常重要的，而且也是一个非常创新的形式。希望短剧呢能够给大家带来更多的快乐。同时呢，也希望短剧能够给中美的人民提供一个相互交流、建立友谊的平台。
Well, it's funny. So I started teaching at UCLA 10 years ago, and at that time, studies showed that the average human attention span was 47 seconds. I don't know if so Walter Murch is a very famous editor, like Judge. He wrote a famous book called In the Blink of an Eye, which basically talks about film editing. Every time your eye blinks, it's kind of an indicator you should move on to the next scene. And so, 10 years ago it was 47 seconds. Now, the human attention span is 2.5 seconds. It's actually shorter than that of a goldfish. No. So, it's getting harder and harder to sort of, maintain anyone's attention these days. We all have so much going on in our lives, and we're bombarded, with messaging and content from all over. So it becomes really, really difficult sometimes to, sit through with 3.5-hour movie. As wonderful as they are, we all have very, very busy lives, and there's a generation of audiences coming up who are used to like watching stuff on a phone. I know my kids, I have 2 boys who are 10 and 12, and trying to drag them out to see Avatar: Fire and Ash is just no thank you. They'd rather just scroll through TikTok or verticals and just like see, consume content that way. And it's sort of, ironic because like, when I watch the stuff I watch, it's like, wait, that's a Katie Holmes movie. They just grab a 2-minute clip from and explain the whole movie to you in 2 minutes. So there's almost this like weird efficiency and compressed storytelling that I think the new generations of audiences are really responding to.
Just expanding on what you're saying, George, I think I've dissected 3 elements of why verticals work, and I think it's a strong story hook. There's a cliffhanger, and it just has a way of being very punchy and impactful in such a condensed amount of time. And so, I was kind of pondering, why didn't Quibi, which came out in 2020, work? That was like a $2 billion industry that they pumped a lot of money in, and then in 6 months, it all dissolved. And I really think it goes back to what China has developed, which is a very formulaic way of telling short narratives in a condensed span of time. So I really think like those elements of having a strong cliffhanger, being very precise, and just very speedy in getting to the point, trimming the fat, is what makes it work and resonate so well.
Yeah, I think where Quibi failed is their episodes were 10 minutes long instead of like the 2-minute episodes of the vertical dramas. Too long, 10 minutes is too long.
And just as a creator storyteller, you just want to, whatever the medium is, whatever the shape of the screen is, you want to tell story, you want to reach the audience. And even from the first one I did, I got hooked. I honestly got hooked. I had no idea what this was, and learning it and kind of and then as a director, as a filmmaker, you get to try out different genres that you've never done before. I had never done a rom-com before, and now I feel like, hey, I have a pretty good handle on this genre, and it's fun, and there's so much room where you can create, you can bring something new to it. But yeah, I remember talking to my film agent at the time, and he was like, "Oh, I know nothing about this." This was like a year, maybe 2 years ago, and now they're like asking me all these questions and connecting me, and they're like, "Hey, do you know this person? You know that person?" I was like, "Yeah, I've worked with all of them before." So yeah, in the beginning, I think there was definitely skepticism, and of course the the quality of work was different in the beginning. There was a lot of trying out different stories, like stories mostly coming from China. We had to localize them here, but you really see how fast this thing evolves. And we're like 2.5 years later. This is it's a world of difference.
For me, having gone to film school and left with hundreds of thousands of debt and not being able to get a job when you come out of film school, it's absolutely terrifying. And verticals, as our esteemed guest from the consulate of China pointed out, it's a $9 billion business. I mean, I think Real Short pointed out, Real Short alone, one platform, took in $3 billion of revenue. The only jobs that are out there right now in this contraction of the business are in verticals. This is for actors, for writers, for directors, for DPs. I mean, they're kind of the only game in town. So I feel as an educator, it would be remiss not to provide our students a chance to work when they get out and use their skills. So this vertical initiative was, we have a new dean at UCLA Film School, and she's been very aggressive about trying to, sort of, envision the future, meet new innovations, that type of thing. So, she recruited me to do this verticals initiative. The only way we could get around it was that it would have to be extracurricular to me. It's not part of our formal pedagogy. I know. So, so we're really going to be discriminated against. That being said, when I presented to our executive board, who are all like Hollywood veterans, senior directors, I thought, okay, I'm going to get like crucified, when I bring up this vertical initiative. And so, I told them, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're giving workshops and panels, we're inviting people to talk about verticals, and at the end, they'll shoot their own vertical pilots. 5 episodes, 10 minutes. You'll be able to create, your own stories. And I thought, okay, and then just silence the room. And then one of the directors, Brad Silverling, mentioned and said, oh my God, it's genius. It's like, this is a generation that grew up on TikTok. They know this format. If anybody's going to be able to elevate and innovate in this platform, it's going to be our students. Why not give them a chance to do that? So, so I think it's an incredible opportunity. Again, I think where the divide happens is, look, it's not trying to replace film, like Shore said, we should still all go to the theaters. So it's a different experience. I don't think it's demeaning film or like taking away from film. It's just, look, it's the same attitude people had when TV first came along. Oh my God, TV's gonna ruin movies, this is horrible. Look, they're now existing side by side. And very much so, I think vertical dramas can exist side by side with cinema and television.